This video is going to be my reaction to the Ravens' 30-7 loss in Week 3 of the preseason up in Green Bay against the Packers. A very unusual game to watch as a Ravens fan. I'll try not to overreact to it. It's difficult, to be honest with you, in some ways because we've been blessed as Ravens fans for the most part in the regular season. And the preseason, obviously, I think at one point was 23, 24 game winning streak in a row. Since Lamar's been here, we've just won a ton of games in the regular season. And generally in the preseason, players had something to compete for. This game, to me, just did really not fit with me in terms of the flow of gameplay that we normally see in the preseason. Fast, physical play on both sides of the football, guys who are competing for roster spots. You'll have to let me know what your thoughts are. Again, I'm trying not to overreact to it, but because I know we had a lot of third-string guys out on the field, or in some cases players that were competing just to be on the practice squad, let alone the 53-man roster. Thought the O-line really struggled at times early in the game. I did see one pancake block for Falele. Don't get me wrong, there were some positives. There were some guys who were active and made plays. Tylan Wallace looked like he played very limited snaps. Another long touchdown catch, this one the 48-yarder on a dig route in the second corner. Bo Brad, I'll definitely do a video on him this week. He had a laser of a tackle for loss in the first half, another tackle near the line of scrimmage in the third quarter, and then a tackle on the sideline or just out of bounds maybe in the third quarter on a bubble screen. I was watching the Packers broadcast, so they were asking for a flag. I thought it was right near the sideline, but nonetheless, very active. I think he finished with 9 tackles. I could be wrong, 6 solos. Trenton Simpson did have an interception. I thought him and the inside linebackers were left out to dry a lot on run concepts. The Ravens had a very difficult time stopping the run in certain situations. Again, I feel like you can look across the 3 games and see a pattern of behavior or a pattern of results based on what we're playing. The play-action boot seemed like it still continued to be a nuisance at times. I wonder if it'll be an issue for us going forward. I'm not saying I think it will, but it's been consistent throughout the preseason, no matter who's on the field, that the play-action boot opposite the run action, we slow play it as a D-end outside linebacker, so we're oftentimes trying to catch up to the quarterback, and those routes are developing to the field or to the boundary, and we're getting beat by them. I had 3 times today. Ravens ended up giving up 200 rushing yards on the day at 4.9 per carry. I thought the Packers were the more physical team across the board. Their offensive line, defensive line, particularly their second-level players on defense and their DBs, I thought they were more physical. Their O-line and their run game, they stopped our run. I think in the first half we're at like 12 carries for 39 yards. The Packers tackled well for the most part, except for the big play from Josh Johnson to Tylan Wallace for the touchdown. Defense overall today gave up, I think, 326 yards. So that doesn't sound like much. Did get the 1 turnover, the interception by Simpson. That ball's thrown right at him, however, by the rookie, to Pratt, I think the quarterback from Tulane. It seemed like this Ravens team, at least with the guys we had on the field today, there didn't seem to be incredible motivation to be there. I'm not saying that everyone wanted to go home, but there didn't seem to be this overwhelming fire to play football today against that Packers team. Hey, maybe the same thing was true in the joint practice on Thursday with our starters. I don't know. I will say this. I find it to be somewhat of an unusual situation to go up and do a one-day joint practice on Thursday and then sit Friday, I presume, and then go play against the same guys on Saturday. To use a baseball reference, it almost seems like a doubleheader where you win game 1, game 2 gets rained out, and you got to come back the next day and play game 2 like early in the morning so you can travel and go back home. I know, and now it's a bad reference in some ways because the Ravens didn't apparently win the joint practice. We didn't win game 1, so there was no correlation to or no response as a sense of urgency for this team, the second stringers and third stringers that were out there to go out there and get a win in Green Bay. But I know that both teams were, 30, 35 plus players held out. I think the defense is staying in really basic looks right now, not being very aggressive, as we all remember, late last year in the regular season, I should say. Very few times do I recall us walking a safety up or doing anything exotic. Now, you could say part of that is because there's a lot of 2nd and 6s. So the other team is gaining 4 yards on first down, and now we're in a run pass down on 2nd and 6, as opposed to 2nd and 8. So if you stop the run up front, you can get a little bit more exotic or more multiple on 2nd and 8. I'm not sure which one it is. It could be both, chicken or the egg. But the point is, we don't seem to be very aggressive, and I have to think that it's not just. I have to think it might part of it is just the players that we have on the field. We're being vanilla, and not necessarily trusting those guys to execute the wide variety of coverages and blitzes and stunts that the starters will be asked to go do. So, nonetheless, you're welcome to let me know if you agree with those thoughts, or if there's any sequences that I missed that should have a more positive reaction or positive flow. I'll say my stream went down at a certain point, like mid to late second quarter. Um, I was struck by our first two offensive possessions, and I'll make a point here, and this is only focusing on the second and third string guys that we have on the field. Generally, the first 3 or 4 possessions of each preseason game. I think we're in the wrong offense for the group that we have on the field. And what I mean by that is the group of guys that we have playing football today in the first 4 possessions is not an under center run the football type team. Granted, the offensive line struggles at times as well, but we do not seem to be able to move people horizontally or physically consistently as an offensive line. If if we were playing football with the guys that were on the field today, first 4 possessions offensively, we're a spread to throw team, in my opinion. I'm talking about removing the first string guys from both rosters completely, and some of the second string guys as well. I think we're a spread to throw team. So it makes me wonder if there's some type of script that we want to see run, and particular plays, particular concepts, so that the coaches and the players can evaluate things based on maybe problematic areas in practice. Okay, we're going to call these plays in the game as well. We want to see what you do with this 3 technique. We want to see what you do with this the backside 1 or whatever. Another way to look at it is to say the offense has only scored, I think, 33 points in the preseason. So that's 3 preseason games, 11 points per game. As a coach, you got to be accountable for whatever the situation is. No, you have to take responsibility. Yeah, we have second stringers on the field, but the other team does too, presumably, for commensurate time periods, meaning second stringers against second stringers. Devin Leary has definitely been a struggle out there, so from an offensive coordinator standpoint, maybe it would be difficult to get anything accomplished. I understand it. He did seem like he was on the field a ton. There was a point in our Ravens Discord where everybody was saying, what is Leary out there for? Why aren't we looking at Emory Jones? And to talk about the quarterback situation for a moment, again, the guys that we have on the field, I can't offer anything that this would carry over with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and our starters on the field. Totally different dynamic. But the 3 we had out there today, Josh Johnson, Leary, and Emory Jones, they threw for a total of 79 yards. A lot of under center conservative play calling early and 1 and 2 yard gains, and in some cases tackles for loss. I think in each preseason game, there's been a moment, maybe 1 or 2 possessions, where you kind of see Monken's true identity or true intentions come out. It's usually in the first half, and similar. I thought it was a similar dynamic last year in the preseason, meaning a couple of possessions of some BS, maybe a script, and then, okay, let's put Josh Johnson in the shotgun, let's throw the ball down the field some, and when we do, we get things accomplished. In this case, the 48-yard touchdown pass to Tylan Wallace. The first 2 possessions, that is not the offense that I saw on the field. Again, back to my point, if we were to roll with this offense, if this was our JV team and we were going to play a JV schedule, our JV team will be running, in my opinion, should be running a true spread offense, 3 or 4 wide receivers on the field, throwing the ball a ton, because when Josh Johnson does that, there's certainly some times where we're effective and we can generate big plays. But I understand we've got our under center and pistol run concepts we've got to work on, because we're going to have Derrick Henry back there to be the hammer. 4 turnovers on the day offensively. We had the fumble in the flats on a hit by Kalen King, the former Penn State cornerback. I guess he's now apparently fighting to make the roster, according to the Packers announcers I was listening to. Interception by former Ravens inside linebacker Christian Welch. An interception by, I think it's Aaron Mosby. And then Mosby also had the strip sack where the ball ricocheted or bounced back like 28 yards behind the offense, resulted in a defensive touchdown, fumble recovery for a touchdown for the Packers. It was tough to chart the game. I think maybe middle, late third quarter I stopped. And I would gather that most people probably stopped watching from a serious standpoint around that time. I think once it became 27-7, Both teams held out 30 to 40 players. You could even look in the stands and see that it wasn't a packed house, and that's very rare for Green Bay. The offensive line struggles will continue to be a point of emphasis for Ravens fans as well. They should. We shouldn't lower our standards. We should have high standards and want to protect Lamar and have a dominant offensive line that helps produce a top 5 offense that doesn't turn the ball over and really helps our defense out. Nick Samek, a backup center, went down with an injury. I think Ben Cleveland got one series or one possession at left guard, which is a little confusing and almost upsetting to me. It's like, why hasn't that happened more in the preseason? And maybe I've missed it. Maybe I'm not recalling it right now. Rosengarten had one backside run concept where I thought he struggled. It may have been the first play of the game or the second, but I couldn't notice much as far as Rosengarten goes. I did watch a couple of reps of Jones because I wanted to see if his feet were crossing over, nearly crossing over, and I didn't notice it. I guess it seems like the joint practice would be a better ticket in Green Bay than this preseason game because it looked quite empty by halftime to me. I thought the first half, my notes from the first half, I usually try to write those down independently and then read them out later. So you just have to accept or believe that they are genuine. That's actually what I wrote. That it didn't look like Ravens football, and that might sound kind of harsh now because we're talking about the third preseason game, and the team is just trying to get to the regular season opener against the Chiefs, 2 Thursdays from now. Nonetheless, you got to judge what was put out there, and I thought the Packers, my notes, I thought the Packers were the more physical team on both sides of the ball. They were swarming in the backfield on our run plays. I mean, their defense. And then Mosby and others creating pressure against the quarterback. That strip sack for the fumble recovery for a touchdown. Then the interception later in the second quarter. Pepe Williams gets beat by our defense. Defensively, gets beat on a slot fade. Bo Melton, I think, is from Rutgers. The Packers played faster, certainly ran the ball better in the first half. They had 13 first downs to our 5. It didn't look like we had any real plan apparent to attack Green Bay's defense based on what we may have seen on Thursday. Run game to that point non-existent. 12 carries, 39 yards. Like I said earlier, I think we had 2 turnovers in the first half, 1 in the third quarter. No sense of urgency until we saw Josh Johnson pretty much go into pass mode on the third or the fourth possession, culminating with the 48-yard touchdown pass to Wallace to take a 7-6 lead briefly. He had a 9-yard completion to Anthony Miller, who, I don't know about you, I'd like to see a little bit more of Anthony Miller. I thought it was Gage, so maybe my numbers are mixed up. Maybe it was 5, and I thought it was 6. Then a 4th down conversion to Charlie Kolar in the boundary. 2 plays later, we get the dig route to Tylan Wallace, open from the outside. It's a seam route by Dayton Wade, meaning a vertical from inside position, number 2 receiver, to carry or clear out the safety in the corner. And then Wallace on the dig route, deep in, whatever you want to call it, depending on how old you are and what your terminology is, onto open space, and then he dives into the end zone, holding onto the football with one hand. 102 yards offense total at the half for the Ravens, 3.9 yards per play, and that includes the 48-yard touchdown pass to Tylan Wallace, who looks great. I didn't see much of Kirkwood today, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that means he's not someone in our plans at all. Part of me, hindsight being 2020, part of me today would have liked to see us go out there and throw the ball. You're going to call me crazy for this. I'd like to see us go out there today and throw the ball 35, 38 times and really get a hard evaluation of some of our receivers and some of our offensive line, as opposed to what I feel like could be 8 or 10, maybe 6 or 8, maybe as few as 6 run concepts that we kind of knew weren't going to succeed because they haven't been so far. Maybe starters out there will be a different story. Lamar Jackson on the field has a certain amount of gravity. Some of our receivers and tight ends as well. From an offensive planning standpoint, as well as the defense, but offensive planning standpoint, seemed very vanilla in the first half. Now, over on defense, we had the one blitz, which was Pepe off the edge, first play of the game for a quarterback hit. After that, I didn't notice much at all. We seemed frozen. Again, that could be part of the plan. The plan or the idea could be basic play calls on defense to see how most of our backups react. I understand that. And you may agree or disagree. At the half, Packers had 101 yards rushing, on 21 carries. Of course, they finished with 193, so about equal output in the first and second half. I felt like split zone was giving us tremendous issues. Also, the 11 personnel run game seemed to cause problems every game. The play action boot concepts as well. A couple of things from a tactical standpoint, and then final thought. Tactically, I think again we'd be better served with the group we had out there today to go out and throw the football a ton and get a hard evaluation of our receivers and our offensive line. But the Ravens offensive staff was probably trying to evaluate certain things, just not those things I'm advocating for. Under center run plays, maybe some play action. Conservative play calling, nonetheless, I didn't think was very, in my opinion, wasn't very beneficial. Second tactical thing was notice the Packers outside linebackers. They're not really slow playing a lot at all. Meaning, if it's a play action concept and they're unblocked, they're either chasing down the line on that zone or stretch concept away from them. They're chasing down the line to attack the run from behind, or they're going to the quarterback. Again, the 53 strip sack, forgot his name for a second there, sorry, Mosby. 53 strip sack of us. He didn't hesitate at all. He's unblocked on what looks like possibly an RPO directly at the quarterback. I think it was Leary, forces a strip sack, ends up being a touchdown. I'm not saying you've always got to fast play it. I'm not saying you always got to go for the mesh point or run down the line, but we consistently through 3 games, I feel like, have slow played everything. Half man. I'm going to react late to the handoff away from me. I'm going to veer off if the quarterback keeps it, and I'm not going to get a sack, but the quarterback is going to have to pull up and throw the football at some point. I understand the benefit of both strategies. I would like to see us fast play it a little bit more, one way or the other, to see what some of our other guys can do. You'll have to let me know if you agree with my summary there, that I think we've been slow playing it, half man, whatever you want to call it, a lot in the preseason. Maybe that's what we're looking for out of Tavius Robinson, David Ojabo, Adisa Isaac, who I didn't see out there today, to be honest with you. Third final thought here. Now I guess we have to look forward to cut down day. I should actually rephrase that. I don't personally look forward to it because we have some talent on this roster that will be at risk of being signed somewhere else. Now with the practice squad, I think expanding, the Packers announcers did a great job of explaining this or talking about it. There's less quality players maybe available to pick up in a cut situation. So I'm planning to do a roster projection video for Sunday night. So you have to let me know if you'd be interested in that, number one. Number two, if you know of any other Ravens content creators that are doing that. I certainly don't want to broadcast it or step on their toes. But how many wide receivers do you think we should keep? Which wide receivers do you believe they should be? I've done a video on the Ravens wide receivers, focusing on Dayton Wade and Kirkwood and Tyler Wallace. I think we should keep a lot of them. I think those guys look competent, particularly Tyler Wallace. I like Kirkwood as well and Wade, even though he had an opportunity to catch a ball down the right sideline. Kind of juggled it or caught it twice and ended up being ruled incomplete. How many defensive backs do you think we should keep? I thought Pepe was in a decent relationship today with Melton. Melton's just about 3 inches, maybe 4 inches taller than him, a larger reach. Pepe was trying to challenge it, unable to go up there and get it, but he's not a guy we're relying on to potentially actually be a nickel defender. Nate Wiggins was on the field today for, I think, 1 possession, maybe 2, and that was interesting. Blanket coverage twice that I noticed once he was targeted on it. How many inside linebackers do you think we should keep? With this in mind, that Malik Harrison will play inside linebacker and OLB. He can slide between the two, or if we're in our base defense, meaning 3-4 personnel, he can kick back from the boundary and create a 4-3 look. And that's really one of the advantages of having him on the team, as well as his ability to play on special teams and stuff like that. I'm not panicked by what I saw today, but I'm not happy. I don't think you can be pleased at all. I have no idea what Harbaugh said or is currently saying as I record this right now, but it shouldn't be good. Yeah, we got good work done Thursday. Cool. They got film of the joint practice, and we probably noticed some things that either we need to work on, or, and this is going back to my assertion that we should have been today, in my opinion, throwing the ball 35, 38, maybe 40 times out of spread 11 personnel or even 10 personnel looks to see what we've got. Because it's not about trying to figure out what you can execute. In some cases, it's trying to figure out what you can't. What can your right tackle not do right now? Therefore, don't call particular plays because you can't trust him to execute that particular assignment. not just the right tackle, the right guard, whoever. And I think that we're going to be in situations with some of these offensive linemen where they'll be on the field, whether it's because of injury or someone else in front of them not playing well. That to me seems like a little bit of a missed opportunity today, and you may not have the same opinion about it, or you may choose to focus on other elements of the game. For me, I would have liked to have seen some of these other receivers get more targets. It's unfortunate that Owen Wright goes down for injury. I think he's a talented guy. Collier looks okay to me as well. If he were to end up being our third guy in a regular season game, I certainly hope nobody else gets injured. But in terms of targets for guys, you've got one target for Tylan Wallace, one for Anthony Miller, two for Walker, and one for Kirkwood. I would have liked to have seen more, 3, 4, 5 targets for at least a couple of those guys, so you can get a real evaluation of them based on the players you were seeing. So you may disagree with me on that, no problem. I was disappointed overall today with the energy level, lack thereof, in fact, by the Ravens on both sides of the ball. And I think that energy level oftentimes leads to inability to execute and just getting out physical. And that's pretty much what happened today. You guys have to let me know what you think of my thoughts in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy, I say that in air quotes, enjoy this review, this reaction video to the Ravens loss to the Packers in Week 3 of the preseason, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.